It's time to talk about a topic that not many people like to talk about, but it's something we gotta talk about. Listen, it takes at least up to 2 gallons of water, two of these babies, just to flush a toilet. Ask me how I know. We were without running water for about a week, and we were having to use rainwater. Luckily, I never used any of our stored water. We did use rainwater, but water is hard enough to store as it is. I really do not want to be using precious water that I need to be using for drinking or cooking or maybe other hygiene purposes just to flush a toilet. We lived off grid a while back, and we used a compost toilet for about 2 years. We loved it. Let me just say, when I first heard of a compost toilet, I thought exactly what you're thinking right now. I know what you're thinking because I thought it too. Ew. I know, it sounds super gross because you're gonna have to deal with your own poo. Okay, that means that with like this compost toilet, one area was urine, and then the other other area was where the poo went. And so you would have to actually empty both of those. For our family of 4 at the time, we would have to empty the urine once a day, and we would just go out and just empty it out, onto a tree or something that we weren't going to consume, or a bush or something. Okay, so then the number 2, the poo, we would empty out once a week. Now, you can do something like this bucket toilet that I have shown before. I really like this bucket toilet idea because it's super simple and affordable for everyone. You get the seat for the bucket toilet, you get some trash bags, and you can get some of the this stuff. I'm doing a blank, but this. So basically what you're doing is you're putting in some sort of substrate into there. So whatever substrate you want to use, whether it's something commercial, some sort of commercial chemical stuff that you want to use, that like you might use in like RVs and stuff like that, or if you get like sawdust or some other type of, you can use kitty litter. I think that's a little more expensive, but you can use lots of different types of substrates in the compost toilet or in your bucket toilet. So use that. And it helps reduce the odors and things like that. You always want to keep the lid closed, keep flies out, all that. Of course, you can always just dig a hole in your backyard and do it that way. Whatever you want to do. We actually had an outhouse for a while when we were in Alaska the first time. I loved the outhouse, actually. I thought it was really good, except in the winter. Then we had the compost toilet inside. So in the winter, or in the summer, we would use the outhouse, and then in the winter, we'd be using the compost toilet inside. When you live off grid, you realize the importance of certain things, like water is super important. I want this for my plants. I want this for drinking. I want this for cooking. I want this for other hygiene needs, right? So speaking about other hygiene needs, we're talking about sanitization. What about taking a shower or a bath? I really like this, the solar shower. What you could do, we did this 2 ways. One, we would boil water and then we put it in there. We'd fill like half with boiling and then the other half with just regular water. And then we'd all take a shower in it. We did that when we were in the cabin in Alaska, and it works really well. It takes a second to boil the water and get it in there, but not that long. Or you could just put the water in this solar bag and then put it in the sun and let it heat up. It takes a few hours, not too long if it's like a really nice hot day. Of course, that probably wouldn't work in like the summer months, you know what I'm saying? It'll just freeze. So you would have to boil that water, that kind of thing. Of course, if you wanted to take a bath, you'd have to boil that much water. People did that back in the day, but they also didn't take a bath every day. They didn't wash every day because it was such a long process to do it. You know what I mean? There might be instances where you don't even want to take a full-on shower, or maybe, you want to take a shower every other day or something like that. In the meantime, you can use something like this no rinse body wash. They also have the no rinse soap, like shampoo, and you can put it in your hair and your body. All you do is you literally just put it on your body. You can put it on a rag or just like put it on your body, rub it in, done. It gets you clean. In fact, a lot of people in assisted living and nursing homes and things like that use this when they can't give like traditional sponge baths, or they can't go in the bath or the shower or something like that. This is used in a lot of medical field. But at home, this is great. And it lasts forever. I've never really known that it could like expire. Maybe it does. I don't know. I've used it years past I got it. I've had this stuff for years and I stock up a lot on it because it's just fantastic. And there's absolutely no rinsing required. It even says it, absolutely no rinsing required. You can continue other basic hygiene and cleaning needs, like, wiping down surfaces, things like that. You can get hand sanitizer and use hand sanitizer. If you have sticky stuff, of course, just wash your hands a little bit. We like to do something like this and then, just open and close it, wash your hands real quick, use it for brushing teeth, stuff like that. So you have like this dedicated to a sink and then you can just open and close it. These are like, what, $15 or something. And it's really nice to have on hand. Obviously have them filled. We don't have this one filled at this moment, but have it filled, put a little bleach in it, and for storage purposes, and you're good to go. I've changed the diapers of 3 children. Plus, you take care of yourself, right? So I don't really know what this ick factor is on dealing with your own poo kind of thing. People used to do this all the time. That's like all they did. They would go in literal, like little buckets that didn't have like substrate or anything else. It didn't have a nice little lid to sit on. And then over time, they were like, you know what? Let's go ahead and put that little bucket underneath something that has a lid. So like, bathrooms and toilets used to be like that, where they would have to go and empty it every once in a while. It was literally called a piss pot for a reason, okay? Because it was a pot and you would go to the bathroom in it and then you just, pour it out every once in a while, right? Like, yes, I love modern life and modern conveniences and being able to just flush your toilet and never have to think about it or deal with it again. However, I want you to think more off-griddy, more not having to be so reliant on systems that could very well fail. We have had plumbing systems fail quite a bit. Is a compost system going to fail? No, it's really not. We had ours for 2 solid years. And it didn't fail. We loved it. And the bucket method, that's not going to fail. An outhouse method, not going to fail. You may have to like dig another hole eventually, but it's going to last for a long time because that's literally what it's doing. It's kind of composting down, right? You could have the barrel methods underground. Anyway, I'm going on a rant. But when it comes to sanitization and hygiene, think a little more outside of the box of just using straight up water all the time for everything. You can use towels with like a little bit of soap on it, do that. And then of course you can rinse it out, wiping surfaces and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about. For doing dishes, just fill up 2 tubs, have one that you wash, have one that you are rinsing, okay? And when it comes to washing clothes, especially by hand, there are like ones that you can rotate like this by hand, and there are like little washing machines like this, like little off-grid washing machines that are like manual, or they might take propane or something like that. But I would really think about a bucket method like this that we did. At the very least, you have 2 buckets, one for washing with the soap and one for rinsing. And then you would hang dry. I really loved that method. I loved hanging and drying. But we did at one point have just a washer that was hooked up to our own water system, our well water and stuff like that. And then we would hang dry. So a couple of things to consider there. It was like a really energy efficient washer. It didn't use that much water. So it was really nice. But of course, we had it hooked up to our own well and our own water system. But if you are going to wash them by hand, at least get this washboard. That really helps. It makes the world of difference. We had a really nice washboard for a while, and then I don't know what happened to it. Then we got this plastic one. This plastic one is okay. It never broke or anything like that. It was fine. But we would wash that. You can do that in a bathtub and then hang it on your bathtub. Like if it's winter or something like that, you don't want to do it outside, can't do it outside, that kind of thing. You can wash it, just a few things in your sink. I would suggest the bathtub though, but just have like the buckets in the bathtub, wash it. I saw one person say that they had like a big bathtub and then they would fill it with water. They put all their clothes in it and then everybody would get in with their feet and like stomp around, and like that's how they would do it. They wouldn't do it with the washboard and they'd stomp around with it. I thought that was such a fun idea. We never did that, but next time we're off grid, we're absolutely going to be doing something like that. I think that's such a fun idea. You can do that in your tub, inside. They were talking about a tub outside, but yeah, you could do that with your tub inside, fill it with water, fill it with the clothes, and then all just get in there and stomp around. It's fun for the whole family, right? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're downloading the 30 Days to Ready workbook so you can work through this, and let's get together some alternative solutions to sanitization and hygiene. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. I will talk to you all later. Bye.